is Heather, and this is the state's final part of their case. This is going to wrap up the rest of the case in the case of California versus Lyle and Eric Menendez. This is the 1993 trial of the Menendez brothers who they they committed the crime of taking the lives of their parents. However, there's a lot of issues at play regarding this case regarding CA and SA, which I can't say because of YouTube, but I hope you get the idea. Things that you're never ever supposed to do to a child was being done to them by their own parents. So when they became adults and realized that they couldn't escape the clutches of their parents and their very controlling and abusive father, they thought that the only way out was to take their lives. They didn't know that there could have been help and resources out there for them. And when you are a victim of such horrible things, you don't always think clearly when it comes to that. And when you are being controlled by another individual, and I can speak from experience, you feel like you have a lack of control and you're just stuck. So, anyways, that is where we're at here. So we are at the final part of the state's case. We just went through 6 parts of their star witness, Dr. Oziel, who was very non-credible. He seemed very unethical, very difficult, combative. He was just a horrible witness for both sides, I thought. Like, he did some good for the defense, but he definitely didn't he had incriminating things to say about them, but he also didn't do a whole lot for himself because he didn't seem credible at all. So after doing the 6 parts, one of our watchers, your everyday sheep. Here, let me shrink myself so you guys can see the screen. There we go. So your everyday sheep, thank you for your feedback. This is great. She gave some, he, I am actually not sure. Sorry, they gave some really great feedback regarding this case. They are very knowledgeable. Obviously, they've watched all of the trial, and it's great having that perspective to add to people like me who I'm watching this for the first time. So it's really good to have, a little more perspective, which is awesome. So I value your feedback. Anyone who wants to reply and share, it's great, and it helps the channel. It helps you guys learn. It helps me learn. It's just, I'm here for learning. All right, so they say, I want to say, I always think it's a she, but I honestly don't know. I apologize. It is a they for now. You are a they. So I just wanted to read this one paragraph because I thought that there was a lot of good information in here. So let me highlight it because it's hard to see. All right, so some other information about Oziel, which comes out later, but I'm not sure if it's in the YouTube compilation of the trial. He got Judalon, so Judalon Smith, his mistress, he got Judalon to talk or to phone his wife, to call his wife and pretend to be Eric and threaten her. This is the witness that we just heard from. And yeah, it just gets better and better about him. They say, or your everyday sheep says, there is also a tape recording of a phone conversation where that Oziel has with Judalon, in which he tells her, remember, Judalon, there's $14 million involved here, which suggests that he was planning to blackmail the brothers and again shows that he was not afraid of them at all. I agree. I don't think he was afraid of them, maybe initially, but the more time that passed, I don't think he was afraid of them. I think he was exploiting them, in my opinion. Um, Sorry, my eyes suck. Where did I leave off? So the last thing that I'll say or mention on him is it has to do with the confession tape that his, that the, sorry, my eyes suck. Let me see if I can blow this up a little bit. They get really tired after a while. Oh, that's better. Okay. Where did I leave off? The last the last thing I'll mention about is about the tape that has the brothers' voices on it. Throughout the entire tape, Dr. Oziel is jovial, laughing, and making jokes. And at certain points, he even makes fun of the brothers and says he doesn't care about how they feel. This man was not afraid of them at all, and I believe he even made up some certain things that the brothers might have told him, like the perfect murder thing. And I do agree that there were some things about his testimony that I think were just totally made up. Other things I just think he totally embellished and turned around for his own benefit. So, great feedback. Thank you, your everyday sheep. And with that, let's get started on the state's case. What's that? What happened here? I gotta fix my screen again. Why did it all move on me? I had it ready. Okay, I am going to stop this, pause this. All right, sorry, I'm back. I just needed to readjust some things. I don't know. I thought I had it done before. I mean, I swear I did. All right, so at first, on the stand, we are going to be hearing from, I'll tell you in 1 second. On the stand, this is Mark Heffernan, the tennis coach. So, let me actually speed this up and give you captions, and let's begin.
Mark Heffernan. Heffernan. Right.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Heffernan, in 1989, did you make a living teaching tennis?
I'm sorry, but he looks like a young Willem Dafoe. Does he not? I just had to stop that because he really does, I think, in my opinion, look like a Willem Dafoe. Anyway, sorry.
Yes, I did.
And toward the beginning of 1989, did you? You become the coach of Eric and Lyle Menendez for tennis?
Yes.
Approximately how often would you teach Eric Menendez per week?
Up to 6 hours a week.
And what did you charge per hour?
$55 an hour.
On August 18th, 1989, did you teach or did you have Eric Menendez as a student in a lesson?
Yes, I believe I did. Yes, I did.
Okay. Do you recall the time period that Eric Menendez had a lesson on that particular day?
I believe it was in the morning between 9 and 12. It was 2 hours, either 9 to 11 or 9:30 to 11:30.
You became aware of the killings of the parents a couple of days later, is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, after the killings of Jose and Mary Louise Menendez, did your relationship with Eric Menendez change with respect to the coaching that you did?
Well, there was a delay. There was a mourning period, and there was a lot of time with the family, and I had to respect that time. So there was a number of weeks, I believe, that they were going through the mourning period and also going back to New Jersey, if I remember correctly.
Sometime in October, did you resume lessons with Eric
Yes.
Menendez? And sometime in October or early November, did you have any discussions with Eric Menendez about full-time employment?
Yes, I did.
And would you relate for the jurors what the nature of the conversations were between you and Eric Menendez?
At that time, we thought of Eric going on the professional tennis circuit at the satellite level, and developing him as a professional tennis player.
And did you have direct discussions with Eric Menendez about being contractually bound to him exclusively?
Yes, I did.
At some point, did you then arrange with Eric Menendez to teach him exclusive to any other student?
He and his brother.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, how many students did you have at that point?
I believe between 15 and 25. It varies. It's a fickle business.
Now, at some point, or do you recall when it was that you started to put in full-time employment for Eric Menendez and his brother Lyle?
I would assume it was around the 1st of November. I'm not exactly sure of the dates.
And how much money were you getting paid?
I was getting paid $5,000 a month for one boy, or $6,000 for two if I worked with both of them.
Okay. With respect to Eric Menendez, what was the agreement, how much would he have to pay you per month?
$5,000.
How much time would you spend with Eric Menendez?
I would spend all day with him. 5.5, 6 days a week.
How many hours would that be per day?
8 to 10.
And had Eric Menendez requested this arrangement?
Eric and Marta, his aunt, and the contract was decided upon between the brothers and Marta and myself.
Was there a period of time that Lyle Menendez was also involved in this arrangement?
Yes, he was.
How long a period of time was that?
Basically the fall and until after the new year, I believe. But right after that, he got involved in business ventures, and he basically left and did those, and I worked with Eric exclusively.
Okay, and you believe that occurred about the beginning of 1990?
I think so. The dates are fuzzy. The time elements I'm not exactly sure of. But
From that point on, then it was just an arrangement that you had to coach Eric Menendez exclusively?
yes.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Heffernan, your original contact with the Menendez family was in 1988, is that correct?
I believe it was.
And prior to the death of Eric's parents, had you been coaching him for about 6 months?
I think so.
All right, so that was a really, really short direct. I don't know what the point was if we didn't catch all of his direct or what, but basically just to show that he spent a whole lot of time with Eric. I don't know what the point of that was. So here is Cross now. This is Eric's attorney, Leslie Abramson.
Yes.
And during those 6 months, was Eric attending Beverly Hills High School?
Yes, he was.
And was he on the Beverly Hills High School tennis team?
Yes, he was.
And was he training and being coached at the high school as well?
He was training at the high school. I don't know about the coaching, but he was training.
Okay, and there's a high school coach for the high school teams.
Yes.
And he would play in matches for the school.
Yes.
Now, he was also playing, to the best of your knowledge, in matches that were part of the United States Tennis Association authorized competitions.
Yes, he was.
And so over the entire course of a year, he would compete in different matches.
Yes.
And apart from the times that you were coaching him, were you aware of the fact that he was also practicing on his own?
He was practicing at the school nearly every day. 5 days a week, he'd have practices after school, except if he got an exemption to play with me.
So he'd either practice after school at the school or he'd practice with you?
Yes.
During school days?
Yes.
Was it also your understanding and your observation that he would practice on the weekends?
Absolutely.
All day on the weekends?
No.
And was it also your understanding that he would have matches to practice with other young men besides practicing with you?
Yes.
When you would coach Eric, would you do it at his home?
Nearly exclusively at his home.
They had a tennis court at the house.
Yes, they did.
And when you would, and we're still talking about that period of time before his parents died. When you would coach him at the home, if Mr. or Mrs. Menendez were at home, would they observe what you were doing?
Most of the time they would. Especially Jose. He wasn't there often, and when he was home, he always watched. Or I can't say always, but quite often.
When, in 1988 and 1989, before August 20th, who paid you for the lessons?
The mother.
And your rate was $55 an hour, correct?
Yes.
And were there some weeks when you would spend more time, give more hours of coaching to Eric, and other weeks when you'd give less?
Absolutely, yeah.
And would that depend on, first of all, whether he was in town versus traveling in tennis matches?
In town and his schedule in general. I mean, it was all up to him. If I was available, I would coach him. If he had things to do, it was variable week to week.
And basically, you were fitting your coaching in around his school time, correct?
Yes.
He was in school full time, as far as
Yes, he was.
He was in school full time and spending 8 to 10 hours. I was wondering how that was happening. I was like, maybe he's getting homeschooled or something, but I mean, that's still a possibility. But I thought that they went to private schools. I don't know for sure, but so he's going to school all day and then he's spending 8 to 10 hours a day also on the court. Crazy.
Now, did you also, in 1988 and 1989, before August 20th, give lessons to and coach Lyle?
Yes, I did.
Was Lyle a more talented tennis player than Eric?
Lyle, I would have to say, was at the time. He was more mature physically, and I would assume mentally and emotionally, and he'd been training longer. Their ultimate developmental level, I think they could have each risen to the same place given a serious amount of training.
And how high a place did you think they could have each risen to given a serious amount of training?
Well, I think at some level they could have been professional tennis players. Now, it's hard for me to extrapolate down the road where they could break through. They could have been world class in the top 50 or 100 players in the world, depending on the seriousness of their intent But that was hard to determine.
Okay. Is it hard work to become a professional tennis player?
Very.
Does it take a lot of exertion and stamina and hours and practice and physical pain?
Absolutely.
Now, after Mr. and Mrs. Menendez died, you said there was a period when you were not coaching Eric, when he was in mourning and he was spending time with his family, and he didn't contact you for coaching. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Did you see Eric during that period?
Yes, I saw him a few days after the killings at the Bel Air Hotel, briefly, and then I saw him in New York City. I was at a national coaches convention in Manhattan, and he happened to be there for the U.S. Open, watching the U.S. Open, and he came to my hotel and saw my wife and I, and
did he appear to be in mourning?
yes, he did.
You can still mourn the parent that you loved and had conflicting feelings about, because you still love them, but you hate them for what they're doing to you. They're still your parents. So on some level, you still are seeking their approval. You still want that. I mean, that's just natural. That's inherent in all of us. So we're always trying to seek that approval of our parent, or, just being accepted by our peers and others. That's just something that we've all wanted in life. And for that to be your parent who you turn to your parent for that support, but yet your parent also mistreats you and makes you feel inadequate and takes away all your self-esteem and puts you in a depression and all sorts of things, having all sorts of feelings. You still could love that parent even though they did those things to you. You still could be in mourning for the loss of that parent, even though you caused the loss of that parent. Do you see? I mean, the world is not black and white. It's not either or. And a lot of people live their life in that black and white, and it's either they're guilty and they belong in prison forever, or they're innocent and they should walk. It's either black or white. But everything in life is in the gray. The majority of things in life are in the gray. And that's where we need to look. And that's where this case lives. It's all in the gray because of the conflicting relationship, the duo between parent and child, and how you don't treat them, or how you do treat them, is how that relationship then grows, and that person that you've raised based on how you treat them is going to go out into the world and live their life based on the way that you've been treating them. So if they don't think that they're worth anything, they're going to go out into the world and continue to feel that way. So it's just, this whole thing is just heartbreaking. So for it to be a parent, I mean, any of it, it's just awful. But yeah, so anyways, back to my point, you can mourn and love a person that you also have conflicting feelings for. So that's all I want to say. We can live in the gray. Let's live in the gray.
Now, at some time in October, you started having discussions with Eric and his Aunt Marta.
Yes.
And those discussions were focused on whether Eric should try to become a professional tennis player, or at least try to get involved in the professional tour.
Yes, he was very interested in doing that.
Now, this kind of tennis training that's required for that professional tour, is it very structured?
I tried to make it structured. I don't think that a young athlete now, especially with Eric's history, he wasn't coming from being the best junior tennis player in the country. So he had to have it more structured in order to have a chance to really develop. That was my impression.
So you were designing what could be called a highly structured program for him?
Very.
Did he express to you, after his parents died, a need for structure, a need for order and stability?
I don't think he expressed that to me. I felt it.
And so strike that. Isn't it true that there were a whole series of discussions and negotiations between yourself and Eric and Aunt Martha and Lyle prior to the signing of the contract that you testified to?
Yes, there was. That's fair to say.
Okay, and at some point even an Attorney Goldberg, got involved and further negotiated with you on the terms of the contract.
Yes.
And did you start coaching Eric full-time even before the contract itself was signed?
I believe I did.
And do you recall, excuse me, whether the contract itself, by its terms, began in January of 1990?
By its terms, it began in January, yes.
And do you think for a month, possibly 2 months before that, you were operating under the terms of the contract, even though the contract itself had not been written?
Yes.
And both before the contract was signed and afterwards, how frequently were you being paid?
Once every 2 weeks, I believe.
And you were being paid $5,000 a month, so that would be $2,500 every 2 weeks.
That's correct. At the time, initially, I was being paid $3,000 a month because Lyle was working with us.
So in the beginning, you were coaching both
Back in 1993, that was a lot. 3,000? Let me do some.
Eric and Lyle.
Yes,
And then at some point, Lyle left the program and Eric remained.
that's correct.
Now, who wrote the checks that paid you?
I'm not sure. It came from a bank back east, I believe, but I'm not sure who signed the checks. It's
Did
something
you-
I can't remember.
Okay, so you don't know if he signed the checks.
No, I don't know that.
They came from an Eastern bank.
Yes.
Do you even know if it was an account of Eric's or someone else's account?
I'm not quite sure.
So in today's money, it's about $65,000. Oh, a week? Was he saying he was getting that a week? Holy crap. Yikes. Being someone who exploits the rich and famous is a good job. I mean, I'm not saying he's exploiting them, but for that much money a week? That's a lot of money.
Sure about that. I think it was a trust account, and that's all I can remember.
And you don't know who the trustee was or what
No,
the
I
name of the trust? Do you think it might have been, I'll strike that. Were you aware at the time that Eric's aunt, Martha, was handling all of his money?
I think I was aware of that. Yes,
And she was paying all of his bills, making all of his purchases?
to the best of my recollection.
Okay. And that's, his Aunt Martha is Marta Cano,
Yes,
and you understood that she was Jose Menendez's sister?
yes, I did.
Does anybody know why the Jose's sister would be involved in like arranging lessons and school and whatnot, arranging things for the boys, as opposed to Jose or Kitty? Why would the sister of Jose be so involved in their lives? I just wonder if anybody knows.
Now, at some point, did you become aware of the fact that Eric moved to an apartment at the Marina City Club?
Yes, I did.
And was the Marina City Club a facility that had tennis courts and a gym?
Yes, I did.
And as part of your regimen, this training for the professional circuit, did it include physical training, such as you'd need a gym and weight machines and that kind of thing?
Comprehensively.
Comprehensively?
Yes.
Really hard work, I gather.
Well, I interviewed different weight training coaches, and we found one that we thought would work the best with the boys, and it was pretty pronounced training. They did
Okay.
not-
And did you conduct this training with Eric at the Marina City Club using their facilities?
Yes, I did.
And had you explained to Eric, even before he moved to the Marina City Club, the nature of the training program you had in mind?
Yes, I did.
And that it would include weight training?
It included many things.
And did you suggest to him that in looking for a place to live, he should try to find a place that had all the facilities he needed for your training program?
I don't think I suggested that. I think they had decided and suggested it to me.
Okay. And did that sound like an appropriate place for you to do the training that you needed
It
to do?
did. It was close to where they had lived and their friends, and it seemed to be a pretty complete facility.
Now, you've indicated that during the period before Mr. and Mrs. Menendez were killed, you didn't see Mr. Menendez very frequently at the house?
No, I didn't. He worked in the daytime except when he had meetings there, and I was always there in the daytime.
Okay. But you did see Mrs. Menendez there, did you not?
Yes, I did.
And did she seem sad and lacking in energy to you when you saw her?
She did. Yes, she did.
You said that you saw Eric after his parents died at the Bel Air Hotel, correct?
Yes,
Did you see Dr. Jerome Oziel there?
I did.
And was there anything about his behavior there that you noticed?
Objections beyond scope and calls for speculation.
Be more specific as to what you're asking. The objection as far as beyond the scope is overruled.
Okay. Did you see the way Dr. Oziel was behaving with respect to Eric and Lyle and the family members?
Objection vague and ambiguous.
Do you understand the question?
Yes, I do.
Objection overruled.
When I walked into their suite, he
Right,
was...
your answer is yes, you did observe that.
Yes, I did.
Did you observe Dr. Oziel behaving in a sort of overbearing and domineering way?
Yes, I did. I could say that.
Do you recall, well, strike that, concerning your training of Eric, once he moved to the Marina City Club, would you go there early in the morning and get him up and then work with him all day long?
Yes, I would.
Did he tell you during that period of time that he was having bad dreams?
Yes, he did.
Was there a particular day in November of 1989 that he told you it was the first day he didn't cry since the death of his parents?
Yes, I believe he said that to me.
Based on your knowledge of Eric before his parents died, did he ever indicate to you in any way, by anything he said or did, that he had any particular interest in money or material things? State of mind, Your Honor.
Calls for conclusion on the part of the witness. Objection sustained.
Well, did you ever hear him express any interest in obtaining money, that stage of his life?
No, I can't say that I did.
Mr. Heffernan, you have a Ph.D., do you not?
Yes.
In
I do.
what?
In clinical psychology?
You're a sports psychologist as well
Yes.
as a coach, are you not?
Yes.
And as a layperson, do you think that you are qualified, based on your interaction with people, to form an opinion as to whether someone appears to be materialistic or not?
Qualified.
Excuse me?
Qualified. I would guess I was as qualified as anybody else.
Exactly. And did Eric Menendez ever strike you as being materialistic?
Objection sustained.
May we approach, Your Honor? Tired of approaching you.
There's no reason to approach.
Now, after, strike that, during the period of time when you were operating under this contract to coach Eric and for some time Lyle exclusively, did it appear to you as a coach and a sports psychologist that Eric had difficulty concentrating?
Yes, he did have that.
You were with Eric in Israel, were you not?
I was.
And when you were with him in Israel, did he appear to be extremely lonely?
That would be fair to say.
Did you feel that during that period in Israel that Eric seemed to be emotionally disintegrating?
Objection sustained.
Did his emotional state appear to did he seem to get more and more emotionally upset, depressed, sad during that period that you were with him in Israel?
I would say that he would be. He couldn't commit as well. That's how I would phrase it. He couldn't
have to
commit.
speak up a little. Even with the mic, I can barely hear you.
He wouldn't commit to the training quite as much as he had before. He was feeling a range of emotions that would be integrated. I'd say there was many emotions he was feeling.
And that seemed to be interfering with his ability to commit himself to the training?
Yes, it would.
You worked with both Eric and Lyle for some period of time in 1988 and 1989, correct?
Correct.
In comparing them, just based on personalities, would you say that Eric was more sensitive, more artistic, and less self-confident than Lyle?
Objection sustained.
After the deaths of their parents, did you ever see any signs of happiness in Eric?
Rephrase the question, please.
Did you ever see Eric acting like he was happy-go-lucky, carefree after his parents died?
Overruled.
Yes, I did.
When was that?
Different times, not a lot of them, but there were times.
Did you talk to him after he met his girlfriend, Miss Terlesky?
Noel?
Yes, Noelle Terlesky. I'm using the last name for a reason, I'll tell you that.
Did I talk to him?
I mean, did you see him after he knew her?
Oh, absolutely.
And did his relationship with her seem to improve his spirits?
Yes, I.
Sustained.
Well, it's foundational to asking another question. Well, never mind.
Let's get to the next one then.
Was
Objection
that when-
sustained. The answer is stricken.
Was that when you saw Eric being more happy, after he met that young woman?
That was some of the time. He was happy before he met the young woman as well, on occasion.
Do you recall what those occasions were?
We shared some fun moments in New York.
That was with you?
That was with my wife and I and Eric.
Did Eric have a good relationship with your wife?
I think he did.
Were there occasions, or at least one occasion, when you went to Eric's apartment at the marina to wake him up and found him crying?
He had the door closed for the most part in the mornings, and he would take.
I feel so bad for these boys, and I still like we haven't even gotten to the worst of it yet because they haven't even testified, which is going to just be heartbreaking. And we're going to need trigger warnings and something to, I don't know, a palate cleanser or something. But yeah, this is just heartbreaking. He came in there and poor Eric was crying.
take longer some mornings than others to rouse himself. So he would come out a little deflated in emotion occasionally.
But my question was whether you ever found him crying.
In the morning, no, I can't say that I did.
Did you tell Miss Lansing in an interview with her on July 18th, 1992, that you would go to the apartment at the marina to wake Eric up, and on occasion you found him crying?
I found him crying one particular afternoon when he
Okay.
was reading a letter, I think, from his brother.
He was reading a letter from his brother?
That yes?
Yes.
Interesting, he gets emotional about his brother.
Sorry.
I think a lot of it probably is because he sees his brother as his protector, his older brother, his big brother. So, um, he probably has that sense of, I want to make my big brother proud too, like you would want your parents proud. So he kind of looks up to him and has that same kind of mentality. What do you think?
Now, you've testified that you believe you gave Eric a tennis lesson on Friday, August 18th, 1989.
I believe that I did.
Okay. Now, ordinarily, did you keep an appointment book that indicated all of your coaching appointments?
Yes, I kept it, in the moment. I saved it. I saved the appointments for a few months, and if there was no important notes, I discarded them.
And you no longer have that appointment book?
No, I don't.
And have you had anything, any writing of any kind to refresh your recollection as to when you gave that tennis lesson to Eric just before his parents died?
Writing? No, not writing.
Is there something about, well, we strike that and ask this, did you also coach Lyle that day, or was it just Eric that you gave the lesson to?
I believe it was Eric.
And you believe it was Friday morning?
Yes.
And ordinarily, would you do your coaching in the morning with Eric?
Ordinarily, there wasn't an ordinary time with Eric.
Was that you would just fit in as much time
Yes.
as you could? If you coached on the weekends, would that tend to be in the morning?
It would be when Eric was available.
Okay. Now, was there something about that last coaching date before the parents died that makes you believe it occurred on Friday,
Yes.
August 18th?
Yes,
Would
there
you
was.
tell us what that was?
I was seeing what their schedule would be for the weekend, and he said, well, we're not going to be taking a lesson tomorrow because we're going fishing with our parents.
So this is Eric said, I can't take a lesson tomorrow, which
Yes.
is Saturday, because we're going fishing with our parents.
And I believe he said he would call me on Sunday to let me know what we were doing for either the rest of the weekend or next week.
Did he call you on Sunday?
No, he did not. Actually, that's not correct. He called me at 10 minutes to 12 at night.
Yes, I know. He called you after the parents were killed, correct? And in fact, you went to the police station and were
Yes.
talked to that morning. Have a moment, Sean.
Yes.
Corrected himself on the stand. That was interesting.
Thank you, Mr. Heffernan. I have nothing further on it.
Any redirect?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Heffernan, when you saw Eric Menendez on the 18th of August, how did he appear to you? Was it just a regular practice session?
Yes.
Nothing remarkable about him on that date?
I can't say that I remember that, if there was anything remarkable.
Now, would you say that Eric Menendez, when you were coaching him, was a strong athlete,
Yes, I would.
an aggressive athlete,
Yes.
very driven,
Driven. I'll qualify the very.
very intense on the court?
Could be very intense.
He's about 6 feet tall,
Yes.
strong,
Strong.
and so was Lyle.
Yes, he was.
Both pretty aggressive on the tennis court.
Objection overruled.
I mean, if it's modified by tennis court, I would drive objection.
That's what you're referring
Yes,
to?
right.
Yes, they were both aggressive athletes.
Now, you had indicated that there were times that you saw Eric Menendez after the killings that he was happy, appeared to be happy. Was one of the times when he met this Noel Terleski?
Yes, it was.
Were you aware that Eric Menendez bought himself a new Jeep in October of 1989?
Yes, I was.
Did he appear to be happy after that with the Jeep?
That would be fair to say.
Okay. You indicated that there was a condominium that you visited in Marina del Rey at the Marina City Club.
Objection.
that-
Let's clarify that.
Okay. What was your understanding of the residence of Eric Menendez at the Marina City Club? What was that?
He and his brother rented 2 apartments,
Side by side?
side by side.
Okay. How many bedrooms did Eric have in his apartment?
I think 3. 2 or 3.
Was it a nice apartment?
Very nice.
Did it have nice furnishings?
Yes, it did.
Did he have a lot of CDs?
Your Honor, I think this is something irrelevant.
Overruled.
I think he did.
Did he appear to be happy with his new apartment?
Yes, he was happy with it.
Were you aware that he had purchased a pool table for himself in November of 1989?
Yes, I was aware of that.
Was he pretty happy about that?
I think he would be happy about that.
I think he would be. That's not he was. That was I think he would be. That's speculation. That's pure speculation. You can't say I think, I'm assuming. You can't guess.
Did you notice Eric Menendez's spending? You had spent some time with him before the killings of his parents, correct?
Your Honor, I
Correct.
object to this. It's beyond the scope.
Overruled.
You may answer, Mr. Heffernan.
Correct.
Did his spending change after the killings? The type of spending that he did that you saw?
It changed somewhat. He all of a sudden had access to buy what he wanted, so it
No.
did change.
This $5,000 per month that Eric Menendez, for Eric Menendez's lessons,
On the next question? All right, you may approach. All right, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Heffernan, you indicated on cross-examination that you saw the parents watching practices, most particularly, I guess, Jose would watch practice.
Occasionally, yes.
Did he appear to be interested in his son?
Yes, he did.
Did you ever see either Mr. or Mrs. Menendez at any tournaments that Eric Menendez was involved in?
Yes, I did.
Did they appear to be supportive?
Yes, they did.
When you were paid, before you were paid $5,000 a month, did you indicate that Mrs. Menendez would pay the $55 fee?
Yes, she did.
She'd pay you by check?
Yes.
Did you actually see any interaction between Mr. Menendez and Eric Menendez at any matches that you witnessed yourself?
Yes, I did.
What sort of interaction did you see?
I saw different interactions.
Did you see any interaction of support by Jose Menendez?
Overruled.
I would think that he was supportive, yes.
Did you see any actions that
Thank you.
Jose Menendez took toward his son after any matches?
Yes, I did.
What did you see?
One particular time comes to mind where Eric was playing a very good player in like the third round or quarterfinals of a tournament, and Jose afterwards took him aside as soon as he came out of the gates of the tennis court and was talking to him with his arm around him, but firmly. And I felt at the time that maybe this was. I wish he had given Eric some space. That's what my feeling was. But it was.
So it looked like maybe he was getting a stern talking to or something in that regard, if I'm reading it right.
Could be construed as both support and firmness.
As a coach for many years, you indicated having students, 15 to 25 students, before you had the exclusive relationship with Eric Menendez. Did you see other parents of good caliber tennis players acting the same way toward their kids, that is, supporting them and being interested in coming to their lessons?
Sustained. Objection sustained.
Was in your profession, had you seen other parents that were also interested in their children?
Objection sustained.
You indicated that you were with Eric Menendez in Israel. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Was there a time that Eric Menendez received a call that his brother had been arrested in the United States for the murder of his parents?
Objection, hearsay.
You lay foundation, please.
Yes. Were you with Eric Menendez at any time in Israel where he indicated to you that he had received a call concerning the fact that his brother had been arrested for the murder of their parents?
Your Honor, I'm going to object to this. It is beyond the scope, and I'd like to approach previous rulings.
All right, you may approach.
Mr. Heffernan, do you know what the letter was about from Lyle Menendez to Eric Menendez?
No, I don't.
Objection falls for hearsay if it doesn't.
All right, the answer is he doesn't. Objection.
No, I have nothing further this time.
Okay.
Mr. Heffernan, did Eric seem to have all the disposable money he needed before his parents died?
I think he had adequate disposable money.
Do you recall telling Miss Lansing on
Exactly. It's not like he was lacking for money. His parents were still, living this lavish life and giving them lots of things. It's not like all of a sudden their money situation changes. They still have money. Now they don't have the source of their money that to keep making it though. That's the only thing that's changed.
July 18th, 1992, that the boys were used to having all of the disposable income that they needed?
I don't recall that, but I could imagine saying that.
Well, does that seem to be the truth?
I don't think they did without.
Right. And was it your experience with them that they both spent a lot of money before their parents died and they spent money after their parents died?
That'd be fair to say.
And did it seem to you that they, before their parents died, that Eric seemed to have everything that he needed? He didn't want for anything, did he?
I don't think he wanted for anything.
And he didn't complain about needing more of anything, did he?
Overruled.
I didn't hear him complain.
And he had a lot. I mean, when it came to tennis, he had all the tennis clothes and tennis equipment and tennis rackets that he could use, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
He had a car of his own.
He had everything money could buy. He couldn't buy his parents' love and affection and making the situation not what it was. He couldn't change that.
I believe he did.
But she's making great points, isn't she? It's like, come on. They had money before. They had money after. The only thing that really changed was that they got like a portion of money. So from I think did they get it from the will or insurance or something? They got money right away and they were able to spend because they had it on hand. They had it, cash on hand versus, hey, mom, dad, can we get this thing over here?
You used the term, when you made this observation of Mr. Menendez with his arm around Eric being firm. Is firmness the equivalent of critical?
It could be.
Was it on that occasion?
I think he was trying to have Eric see that he could have played a more creative match.
So he was criticizing his performance, basically. Telling him he didn't play the way he thought he should.
Misstates the evidence.
Objection sustained.
Was he telling Eric that Eric hadn't played the match the way Jose thought he should have or could have?
I believe that's correct.
Now, concerning this, the things that you observed Eric being happy about, did you ever observe him being happy about the death of his parents?
No, I did not.
Concerning Eric and Lyle, did it appear to you from the very beginning when you started coaching them that they had been professionally trained, professionally coached for a long time before you got there?
I think this has been asked and answered.
Not before the jury, Your Honor.
Okay, then you're correct. Objection overruled. Yes.
I believe it would appear that they had been professionally trained.
And that would lead you to conclude that there had been professional paid coaches in their background before you came along?
Yes.
And you said in response to Mr. Kuriyama's questions that both Eric and Lyle were aggressive athletes. Is that a positive attribute in a tennis player?
It can be.
Did you ever see Eric aggressive in any other way? Did you ever see him physically aggressive with people?
In play only.
Did he ever complain to you about his parents?
Objection sustained.
Did he ever say anything negative to you about his parents? No, it goes to state of mind, given the people's theory.
Well, counsel, let's not argue the matter.
Okay.
Can we have a time frame in which you're asking this question?
Well, before they died, which would be 1988. When do you think you started coaching around? Was it around November of 1988?
It was in the early winter, somewhere in there, yes.
Of 88, and up until the parents died in August, so that would be less than a year.
Yes.
During that year, did Eric ever say anything negative about his parents?
I can't remember if he did. It doesn't come to mind.
Thank you. I have nothing further.
All right, any redirect, rather.
Just a couple questions. Mr. Heffernan, were you aware that Eric Menendez received an allowance of $180 a month? That's what his allowance was?
I wasn't aware of that.
Okay. And at the time that you first met him, was he driving a Ford Escort?
Yes, he was.
Okay. So isn't it true that you, in a report dated July 12, 1993, that you indicated that he seemed to... Yes. Page 33 of the report, July 12, 1993. It's the last sentence. Mr. Heffernan, did you...
rather than hearsay, Your Honor. Mr. Kuriyama just asked the question.
Objection overruled. Why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, Your Honor. Did you indicate that Eric Menendez seemed to spend a lot more money on a much larger scale after the deaths of his parents?
A larger scale, absolutely.
Thank you. No further questions.
Anything else? All right, thank you. You may step down. You're excused.
Thank you.
It's possible that you'll be recalled, but thank you.
Yes, but they had access to larger amounts of money, so they could spend money more frequently or in larger quantities. So it's really not much of a point, I don't think. Anyway, so he's gone now. We're going to move on to Valerie Hart is about to take the stand. She's the real estate agent.
At this point. And did you have any brief stipulations you wanted to recite at this point, or?
I have. Well, actually, let me just go ahead.
All right.
Valerie.
Okay. As far as the case of People versus Eric Menendez, we're fairly close to the end of the People's case. They have, at this point, it's my understanding, one more witness that they'll be calling, or two, perhaps, two witnesses, and there's some stipulations or agreements that both sides have entered into that will be recited to the jury on Monday morning. And
Just for a second on scheduling.
yes, and then I'll give you a little more information regarding the next phase of the case, the defense phase of the case. I'll talk to the lawyers about their concerns as far as scheduling. And we're ready to resume with the trial in the case of People versus Eric Menendez. You may call your next witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. The people call Valerie Hart.
audio is terrible all of a sudden.
Valerie Hart, H-A-R-T.
All right, if you'd pull a little closer to that microphone so we can all hear. All right, Mr. Kuriyama.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Hart, directing your attention to October 15th, 1989. How were you employed?
I was an agent working for a developer at the Marina City Towers. The developer.
Would you describe for the jurors what that development entailed or what it was about?
It was a conversion from apartments, 600 units. They're luxury high-rise. They're 1, 2, 3 bedrooms and penthouses.
On the afternoon of October 15th, 1989, did some young men come in to take a look at a penthouse?
Yes,
And do you see one of the young men in the courtroom today?
yes.
Would you identify him for the judge?
Eric Menendez.
And what is he wearing today?
Your Honor, I will stipulate that she recognizes his name.
All right, you doing that?
Yes,
Oh,
Mr. Gilbert,
okay.
Your Honor. Ms. Hart, was the defendant Eric Menendez in the company of anybody else?
Yes.
Who else?
Lyle Menendez and Noel.
And Noel, would you describe Noel?
Tall, thin, brownish hair.
About how old?
Early 20s.
On that day, was there a request made of you by any of those three persons?
Yes.
And who made the request of you?
Lyle.
And what did he say?
He wanted to see the largest unit condominium we had for sale.
And did you then show them the unit?
Yes, I did.
What was the unit?
3,000 square foot penthouse, 2 bedrooms and a den.
Was it the largest penthouse that you had?
Yes, it is.
What was the sale price of that?
$990,000.
Now, what specifically did Lyle Menendez say in the presence of Eric Menendez regarding wanting to see this penthouse?
They just wanted to see the largest unit that was available.
Now, when Lyle Menendez made the statement, what did he specifically say to you?
I asked and answered, Your Honor.
Overruled.
They wanted to know what the largest unit we had was, and I told them it was this penthouse, and they wanted to see it. He wanted to see it.
When you say they wanted to see it,
Objection, Your Honor. The witness has clarified her answer.
Sustain.
what did he specifically say? I want to see it, or we want to see it? What did he say?
I can't recall if he said he or they.
Okay. Do you recall testifying yesterday in a hearing?
Objection, Your Honor. She couldn't testify yesterday.
Yes, you mean Friday, do you?
On Friday?
Yes.
Was it
And I would object to a reference to that because that question was objected to on Friday.
I don't believe it's correct.
Well, you can refresh your recollection and see if,
Do you recall testifying on Friday in a hearing in this court?
Yes, I do.
And do you recall testifying that Lyle Menendez said that we wanted to see the penthouse?
Yes.
Is that what you recall then?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection as to what was
Yes.
said? Now, at some point, did you then show the brothers and Noel this penthouse?
Yes, I did.
And what did you do?
I took them up to the penthouse, and they looked around, explained a little bit about it, and they were talking amongst themselves. And I needed to go back down to the office, and I told them that they could stay there, and if they had any questions, they could come back down to the office.
Do you know approximately what time it was that they arrived at the Marina City Club?
It was early afternoon,
And do you recall approximately how long they stayed?
over 2 hours.
At some point, did the other young man leave?
Yes.
Approximately how much time had elapsed when the young man left, leaving the brothers there?
The three were together up in the penthouse until they came back down to the office, and then Noah left.
Now, during the course of this, some 2 hours that they were looking at this penthouse, did you ever go up to the penthouse and ask them how they liked the unit?
Yes, I did. I went back.
Mr. Kuriyama here is obviously leaning on the mic, and it's very annoying and very loud, and I don't appreciate it, Mr. Kuriyama.
Back up. I didn't ask them how they liked it. They were still there.
Did you have
And
a conversation with them?
I said, "Oh, you're still here," and then they were all sitting on the ground, on the floor, and talking amongst themselves. They said that they liked it.
And at some point, they came back downstairs?
Yes.
Is that to the office where you were?
Yes.
And at some point, did they indicate, or did somebody indicate to you their desire to purchase this penthouse?
Object to the use of the word they.
why don't you rephrase the question?
Okay. Did someone indicate to you that he was interested in purchasing the penthouse?
Yes.
Did he indicate to you who it was that was going to be purchasing the penthouse?
I'm going to object on his vague. We don't even know who's talking.
One thing at a time. You may ask the question. Go ahead. Objection overruled.
Thank you. Did you understand the question?
Yes.
What did that person say to you?
They said they wanted to buy.
Okay, again, you can't say they if it was just one person.
He said they wanted to buy the penthouse.
And was that when Eric and Lyle Menendez were together in your
Yes.
office? Did he use the word? Did he use a particular word?
Why don't you clarify who the speaker is?
Okay, who was the speaker that said they wanted to buy the penthouse?
Lyle.
And did he use particular words? Did he say they wanted to, or
It was we.
we? Now, at some point, did Lyle Menendez indicate to you that there were some changes to be made to the interior of this $990,000 penthouse?
Yes.
I'm going to object to the form of the question. It's already known.
Overruled.
Yes.
And what did he indicate?
Wanted the carpet changed, the wallpaper removed, appliances added.
When he made the statement about wanting the interior changes, did he make a statement that you can recall as to who wanted these changes?
I can't recall.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Sir, I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 137. Take a look at this document, please.
Yes.
And do you recognize it?
Yes.
Are those forms new buyer information that are filled out at your office at the Marina City Club?
Yes, they are.
And were these forms filled out, or some of the forms at least filled out on October 15th, 1989?
Yes.
And you had indicated that the purchase price of this penthouse was $990,000?
Asked and answered.
Overruled.
Yes.
Was there a time on October 15th that there was a discussion about a deposit being made on that particular penthouse?
Yes.
And was a deposit made?
Yes.
Who made the deposit?
Eric.
How much, was it by check?
Yes.
How much money was paid?
$29,700.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I mean, why are we offended by some rich kids spending money? I mean, I get that that goes to their motive, but at the same time, it's like they're rich kids. Their parents are gone. They need to find a new place to live, I'm assuming. They probably don't want to stay at their mansion if they even could. And I don't get the big deal. They're young adults at this point, so they're not even teenagers anymore. They're I don't know. I don't I don't get I mean I get it goes to motive and that's what they're trying to show, but frustrating when we know all of the background about the CA and the SA.
On the fourth page of this document, Exhibit 137, appears to be a copy of a check from Eric Menendez. Is that the check that you received?
Yes, it is.
Did you see Eric Menendez fill out the check himself?
Yes.
And sign it?
Yes.
At some later time, was that contract later canceled?
Yes, it was.
And did you see Eric Menendez and Lyle Menendez at the facility sometime later?
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Cross-examination.
Thank you. So who canceled it? Like I still have more questions, and he just sits down. Thank you. We're done.
Ms. Hart, had you ever seen the young man Noel before this date, September 15th?
No.
Did you know who Erica Facade was?
Yes.
And did you know that she was Noel's mother?
Yes.
And was Erica Facade and her husband living at the Marina City Towers at the time?
Yes.
And was it your understanding that Erica, Noel's mother, had referred the Menendez brothers to you?
Yes.
Now, did the Marina City Club have a full athletic facilities?
Yes.
It had a gym, it had swimming, it had tennis courts, did it not?
Yes.
And the tennis coach told him you need to find some place that can accommodate what you need to continue your vigorous training schedule. Isn't that what they just did? And then they're being criticized for it now?
The check that Eric wrote, do you have it in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Is it drawn on the United Jersey Bank in Princeton, New Jersey?
Yes.
And was it made out to an escrow company?
Yes.
And do you recall how it was that Eric wrote this check? Do you recall a conversation initiated by Lyle that resulted in Eric writing this check?
They talked amongst themselves, and I don't know how they decided. The only thing I do recall is that he wrote the check, and there was just a discussion between them if there was enough money in the account.
Do you recall testifying on Friday to the effect that Lyle turned to Eric and said, do you have a check? Would you write the check?
Yes.
Yes, you do recall that testimony. Is that what you recall happening?
I don't think she does. Either way. Let's go back.
Do you have a Do you recall testifying on Friday to the effect that Lyle turned to Eric and said, do you have a check? Would you write the check?
Yes.
Yes, you do recall that testimony. Is that what you recall happening?
One question at a time. Do you recall that testimony?
No, I don't.
Okay. Well, do you recall that happening, that Lyle asked Eric, do you have a check?
No, I don't.
But you just said yes, so you just proved that you're lying on the stand. So how do we know we could trust anything you say?
Yes. How many pages of documents under the new buyer documents are in front of you?
How many pages?
Yes.
I don't know exactly, maybe 20.
Why don't we go through them together? May I approach her?
Yes.
The document, the page on the, strike that. The first page says new buyer information, correct?
Yes.
What's the buyer's name?
Joseph Lyle Menendez.
That's the only name for a buyer that appears there, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Now, you do on occasion sell property to more than one tenant, more than one buyer, like joint buyers?
Yes.
And if you had sold this to two people, both names would appear, correct?
Yes.
And this entire packet of documents only contractually bound Joseph Lyle Menendez, isn't that true?
Yes.
No matter who wrote the check.
That's correct.
Now, also on this new buyer information sheet appears the words "not reported." What does that mean?
After we would make a sale, we need to report it to the developer at his office.
And this did not happen with this transaction, is that
No,
correct?
it did not.
This transaction was canceled in a week, was it not?
That's correct.
And in fact, on some date after October 15, Joseph Lyle Menendez and Eric Menendez and the lawyer came back to you and canceled the transaction. Isn't that
That's correct.
Now, can you explain why the date of sale is October 15, but the date on the check is September 15?
You wrote the wrong date?
But it's your testimony that the check was given to you on October 15.
Yes.
Now let's turn to page 2 of this package of documents. This is a direction to the construction office, correct?
That's correct.
And on this document, the name of the buyer also appears.
Yes, it does.
And it's Joseph Lyle Menendez, is it not?
Yes.
Page 3 is a form having to do with architectural flooring and soundproofing requirements, correct?
Yes.
And this is a form that the prospective homeowner has to initial?
Yes.
And are the initials JLM?
Yes.
The next page, the fourth page is the check we talked about, correct?
Yes.
The fifth page is another form for the purchase called the Receipt for Public Report,
Yes.
signed by Joseph Lyle Menendez.
Yes.
The next is
It's the second page of the first.
second page of the first, also signed by Joseph Lyle Menendez.
Yes.
The next page,
It's a public report about the ground lease.
and that's also signed by Joseph Lyle Menendez and names him as the buyer.
Yes.
And the next page is a
It's
cover
a
letter,
fax cover sheet to the lender.
and that neither names the buyer nor does it have a signature.
No.
The next is the actual condominium agreement to purchase subleasehold condominium and escrow instructions, correct?
Correct.
And this is a multi-page document, I take it?
Yes, it is.
And on this page, Joseph Lyle Menendez has initialed it.
Yes.
And in fact, this also describes that Joseph Lyle Menendez is the purchaser and he is to take title vesting as a single man, correct?
Yes, it does.
The second page, he has also initialed a change in the agreement, some modification, correct? The third page, he has signed, he being Joseph Lyle Menendez.
Yes.
Then there appears in this package of documents the business card of attorney Stephen B. Goldberg.
That's correct.
And is it your recollection that Stephen B. Goldberg is the attorney who accompanied Eric and Joseph Lyle Menendez when they came and canceled the contract?
Objection, Vegas, time.
Overall.
Yes.
The next page is another receipt for public report signed by Joseph Lyle Menendez.
Yes, it is.
The next page
I am like on the edge of my seat. Whenever Leslie Abramson is doing the questioning, I just really enjoy it. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. She's good.
is a condominium conversion disclosure that has no named buyer nor signature of anybody, correct?
Correct.
But the next page is the continuation of that, and it has Joseph Lyle Menendez's signature.
Yes.
The next page is a form, supplemental disclosure notice and acknowledgement that requires no initialing or signature, correct?
Correct.
The next page is a continuation of that, which names Joseph Lyle Menendez as buyer, and he signs it.
Yes.
The next page is, I take it, a list of requested changes under the name Joseph Lyle Menendez, correct?
Correct.
And it also names at the very bottom a Henry Lanio, who's identified as a cousin of Joseph Lyle Menendez.
Yes. It's the same.
I mean, it's pretty clear that it was Lyle purchasing the condo, not Eric.
Same thing.
These are like
Repeats,
duplicates.
yeah.
I'm not going to take it. Now, there is nowhere in this entire package of documents except that deposit check that Eric Menendez's name appears. Is that right?
That's right.
And would it be accurate to say that it was Joseph Lyle Menendez who was talking to you and making requests and discussing terms and discussing changes during this entire transaction?
Yes.
And would it also be accurate to say that, apart from the young men talking among themselves, Eric was silent?
You understand the
Yes.
question?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that true?
Yes.
In fact, isn't it true that at some point at least you noticed that Eric was very quiet and had his head down?
Yes.
Isn't it also true that he didn't look like he was having a good time?
Objection calls for speculation.
Overall.
No.
That's not
I
true?
mean, no, he didn't.
This wasn't like a party atmosphere.
Objection, that's evading the
Rephrase the question, please.
Okay. Would it be accurate to say that Eric did not look like he was having fun?
No, I didn't.
Now, this transaction was canceled in less than a week.
Yes.
But subsequent to this, are you aware that Eric rented an apartment in the Marina City Club?
I don't know when he rented, but I know that he did rent.
And did you know that Noel, Erica Ficati's son, was his roommate in that apartment?
Yes, I did.
And that was not a penthouse, but an apartment.
Yes.
I've never heard of him.
Can you redirect?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Hart, have you seen any paperwork?
Well,
on the-
excuse me, I'm sorry. I do want to reserve one question, but I need the reporters.
Yes.
Did you review before today any paperwork indicating that Eric Menendez had leased a condominium next to his brother?
Yes.
And reviewing that paperwork, do you recall how much it was that he, per month?
Objection, Your Honor. The court's ruled on this.
Objection sustained.
Did you at any time
I'm just trying to go into something that they've already ruled was inadmissible, or you're not supposed to go into. So
get information from Eric Menendez why they didn't go through with the purchase of this penthouse?
Objection, Your Honor.
From Eric Menendez?
Objection overruled.
You had indicated on cross-examination that Eric Menendez returned with his brother Lyle Menendez with an attorney, and they canceled the purchase of the penthouse, correct?
Yes.
Was there something stated on that day as to why they didn't go through with this?
Objection, Your
contract?
Honor. Now he's calling for hearsay, I assume.
Objection overruled.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes.
What was said?
I'm going to object unless we know who's talking.
All right, let's lay a foundation.
Okay. Ms. Hart, you indicated, first of all, that Eric Menendez and Lyle Menendez returned to your office about a week after putting this deposit down in this penthouse.
Objection, asked and answered.
Overruled.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And they had an attorney with them at that time.
Yes.
Now, was a reason stated to you why they did not want to purchase this penthouse at that time? In Eric Menendez's presence?
Yes.
Who said it?
Lyle.
And what did he say?
Objection, Your Honor. Hearsay.
Overruled.
He was going to be purchasing restaurants in Princeton,
Objection, Your Honor. I move to strike.
Overruled.
Thank you.
and that he was going to be out of town a lot, and they decided to rent instead.
And did he indicate that instead of buying the penthouse, that they would lease two condominiums side by side?
Objection, Your Honor. That is leading. That is hearsay.
Overruled.
Is that correct?
I did not lease to them.
Okay, but did they tell you on that day that that's what they intended to do rather than buying the penthouse?
They intended to rent,
I'm going to
yes.
object to the form of the question because she's only
Objection
testifying.
is sustained. The answer is stricken. Please specify who it was that was speaking.
Who was it that made the statement to you on the date that Eric Menendez went to your office with Lyle Menendez, with the attorney? Who was it that made the statement to you regarding canceling the sale?
Asked and answered.
Overruled.
Lyle.
And what is it specifically that Lyle said why the contract was to be canceled?
Asked and answered.
Sustained. You had one question there that was being asked, Mr. Kuriyama, and now you're going backward the whole thing again. So objection sustained.
When Lyle made the statement, was that in the presence of Eric Menendez?
Asked and answered.
Overruled.
And when he made the statement, did he indicate that they would purchase or they would lease two condominiums instead?
Objection. Leading.
Overruled.
They said they were going to lease instead.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Any recross?
Ms. Hart, you understand the difference between one person talking and two people talking?
Yes.
All right. Was it Lyle who did the talking again on this occasion when he said he was going back east and he wouldn't be around much, he didn't want to buy?
Yes.
And was it Lyle again who said we've decided to lease instead?
Yes.
So Eric never said anything that second time either, did he?
No.
Your Honor, I need to be able to check with the transcript before I do.
All right. Is it here or not?
I think.
All right. If it's not, then all right. Well, we'll proceed with something else then. You may step down. Don't leave quite yet. There might be something else they want to ask you about. All right. Call your next witness, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Prior to calling my next witness, if I could read two stipulations. This is with regard to the purchase of a Jeep. Will counsel stipulate that Exhibit 138 previously marked is a true and correct copy of the business records of Bird's Jeep and Eagle of Los Angeles regarding the sale of a Jeep to Eric Menendez on October 21st, 1989?
Yes, so stipulate.
And people shall stipulate, Your Honor. Further, will counsel stipulate regarding the Calabasas thefts that between July 1st, 1988 and July 10th, 1988, Eric Menendez and a friend were at the home of another friend, John List Jr., whose parents were away on vacation. While searching for keys to a van, Eric and his friend found a piece of paper bearing the combination to the List family safe. After the safe was opened, Eric removed money and jewelry. On July 14th, 1988, Eric Menendez and Lyle Menendez entered the Calabasas residence of Michael Ginsberg without permission. They removed a combination safe and its contents from a closet, a VCR, china, silverware, a Soloflex machine, IBM computer, and jewelry. On September 16, 1988, Eric Menendez surrendered at the Malibu Sheriff Station accompanied by his father, Jose Menendez, and a lawyer, and turned over most of the property that had been stolen. Eric Menendez gave a statement admitting his involvement in the two thefts without implicating anyone else. Jose Menendez made full restitution to the Lists and Ginsburgs for the property not returned to them. So stipulated?
Yes, so stipulated.
The people so stipulate, Your Honor.
All right.
With that, people call Detective Leslie Zoller.
Can we finish with Ms. Hart?
Yes, well, let's call the previous witness back just for a moment. Please come back up here, Ms. Hart. All right, further cross-examination.
Ms. Hart, you recall I was asking you if you recalled your testimony of last Friday concerning how it came about that Eric wrote a check, and you said you didn't remember the testimony. Is that right?
I just said that they had talked amongst themselves, and he wrote the check.
What I'm asking you, though, is do you remember what you testified to concerning this issue last Friday when we had this hearing with just the judge? But let me ask you this. Do you think it would refresh your memory if I show you your testimony from last Friday?
I don't remember, but I can.
Why don't you just read?
All right, let me read you this testimony. This was a question by the court. Was there any discussion about why he was writing the check or what was going to happen as a result of his writing the check? Answer. Lyle asked him if he had a check, and he said yes. The only thing I recall is there was some concern as to whether the amount of money was in the account. I have nothing further.
All right. Anything else?
Nothing further.
Okay, thank you. You may step down. You're excused. And Detective Zoller, and I'll see counsel at the sidebar. All right, you can get on the witness stand, Detective Zoller. You've previously been sworn in this case, and you're still under oath.
Detective Zoller, directing your attention to November 29, 1989. Were you conducting an investigation regarding the murders of Mr. and Mrs. Menendez?
Yes, it was.
And pursuant to that investigation, did you enlist the assistance of Craig Signorelli?
Yes.
Had Craig Signorelli given you information about the killings previously?
Yes, he had.
And on that date, the evening of that date, did you see to it that Craig Signorelli was wired?
Yes, I did.
And did you monitor the conversation between Eric Menendez and Craig Signorelli on that date?
That's correct.
There's been testimony regarding, I believe, 2 tapes or 2 machines being used at that time.
Yes.
Would you describe for the jurors what kind of equipment was used?
We had 2 transmitters. One was in the form of a checkbook with a calculator, and the second one was a body wire, and that's a transmitter that has a microphone, and the transmitter was taped to his body. The transmitter then transmits to the receiver, which is where I was, and it's in the form of, it receives and goes directly into a tape recorder. So I had 2 tape recorders going at once, and the speakers to the tape recorders were going so we could monitor what was being said.
Detective Zoller, did you monitor the entirety of that conversation?
Yes, I did.
And did you see to it that audio tapes were made?
Yes.
Okay. With respect, have you seen a transcription of the audio tapes?
Yes, I have.
And drawing your attention to B22 of 33, the second side of the first tape,
I have it.
do you recall a statement made by Eric Menendez as it begins at the middle of that page?
Yes,
Have you reviewed that particular portion
I have.
through the first 4 lines of B23 of 33?
Yes.
Does that appear to accurately reflect what Eric Menendez stated on November 29, 1989?
Yes, it does.
Would you relate that to the jurors?
What the discussion between Eric and Craig were, specifically Eric speaking that he didn't know who had killed his parents.
Object to this, This is already been testified.
You're referring to the middle of the page or the bottom of the page?
It starts at the middle of the page, Your Honor, with a statement by Eric. It starts, I'm.
I would object to that, Your Honor.
All right, I thought the reference was to be towards the bottom of the page
Correct.
in our earlier discussions.
May we approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Detective Zoller, drawing your attention to B22 of 33, the last 2 lines and first 4 lines of B23 of 33. Is this conversation that took place between Eric Menendez and Craig Signorelli?
Yes, it is.
Would you read from that transcript that conversation and identify who's speaking?
Yes. Eric stated, "Man, we're talking about special hitmen, special shotguns, and knew exactly what they were doing in and out of the house. No one saw anything, no one heard anything." Then Craig stated, "Doesn't make sense." Eric then said, "We're talking serious hitmen."
Okay. Drawing your attention to another area, Detective Zoller. On November 1992, did you receive custody of an audio tape of Dr. Jerome Oziel's notes of the October 31st, 1989 and November 2nd, 1989 sessions that the doctor had with Eric and Lyle Menendez from the Superior Court clerk?
Yes.
And did you listen to the tape at that time?
I listened to the tape the following day.
Did you give a copy to the district attorney's office?
Yes.
Okay. Did you try to identify the movie that Eric Menendez had said he had seen before the murders of his parents, which had dealt with the son murdering the father?
Objection, Your Honor.
Why don't you rephrase the question?
Did you try to identify the movie that was related in Dr. Oziel's notes from his sessions with the defendants, Eric and Lyle Menendez, on October 31st and November 2nd? Did you try to identify that movie?
I'm going to object again, Your Honor.
All right, refer again to the specific conversation between Eric Menendez and Dr. Oziel that was the subject of Dr. Oziel's testimony here.
Okay. Do you recall Dr. Oziel testifying that Eric Menendez had told him that he had seen a movie on the BBC,
Yes.
which reminded him of his relationship with his father?
That's correct.
And that after seeing the movie, he had discussed with his brother Lyle Menendez the killing of their own father?
Yes.
And I believe those references appear in Dr. Oziel's notes at pages 2, 3, and 11. Is that correct?
I'm going to object to that, Your Honor. The relevant word appears in Dr. Oziel's notes.
Overruled.
That
Although I
sound
don't know
right?
the exact pages. That sounds about right.
Now, after listening to this tape, after you received the tape from the Superior Court clerk in November, or November 30th of 1992, did you take steps to ascertain the identity of that tape?
Your Honor, I'm going to object again if possible, though.
As to that question, the objection is overruled. You can answer.
Yes.
Now, did you at some point ascertain that there had been such a movie which had played within weeks of the killings?
I'm going to object to the form of the question, Your Honor.
Overruled.
Yes.
Was there such a movie?
Yes, there was.
And when did it air?
July 30th and the 31st. It was a two-part.
Of 1989?
Of 1989, I'm sorry.
Did you ascertain which network played it?
Yes.
Which network played it?
Channel 4 or NBC.
Did this movie on the BBC involve
Sounds like a made-for-TV movie where it's like back in the 90s, we didn't have streaming services like Netflix or anything like that, where everything has a streaming service now. We had basic cable, we had some main TV channels like ABC, NBC, I'm sure I'm missing some. And then they would play movies like two-part nights, or sometimes it'd be like all week you'd get like a one part. I don't know. Or it would go on for like weeks, sometimes even. These made for TV movies. They were good. I mean, I think kind of like USA, or sorry, that would be my dog. Can you get off my equipment? Thank you. Sorry about that. So this, think like USA made for TV movies, or Lifetime movies. That's kind of like what these made for TV movies were like, but everyone tuned in because it was on like a basic channel, like an NBC or an ABC.
a son murdering the father?
Yes.
I'm going to object to that, Your Honor. It's beyond the court's instruction.
Objection sustained. The answer is stricken. Let's rephrase the question, please.
Did this movie on the BBC involve the son being involved in the killing of his father?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further this time around.
Cross-examination.
Come on. Detective Zoller, concerning this television program, you tried to see if there was anything that could have been what Dr. Oziel claims was said to him by Eric concerning the movie, correct?
That's correct.
You checked with Scotland Yard in England for a while, did you not?
I did.
And it was only in the past few days that you determined that on July 30th and July 31st, there was a movie bearing the initials BBC in 1989 on NBC, correct?
If you could give me your explanation or understanding of a few days. It was
Well,
within the
within a
last...
week or two.
That's correct.
And you figured this out by looking at TV guides, correct?
That's correct.
Do you know, based on your investigation of this case, where Eric Menendez was on July 30th and July 31st of 1989?
No, I do not.
Do you know, based on your investigation, that he was not in Los Angeles on those dates?
I'm not aware of that, no.
Are you aware of an interview with a couple called the DeVitos?
Yes.
Are you aware of the fact that the DeVitos house sat with the Menendezes over the summer of 1989?
Not of the whole summer, but a portion of the summer. That's correct.
And isn't it correct that they were house sitting on July 30th and 31st?
I'm not positive, but that could be.
And do you know where Lyle Menendez was on July 30th and 31st of 1989?
No, I do not.
Now, I take it Dr. Oziel did not tell you that this particular television program you have testified to is the one that Eric told him about.
That's correct.
He doesn't know that that's the program, does he?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And you don't know that that's the program either. You're just drawing an inference. Is that right?
Correct.
Nothing further.
Any redirect?
Your Honor, may we approach?
Yes.
Detective Zoller, did you see this movie that played on the BBC, that played on NBC?
Yes.
Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down.
So what if he saw it? That's dumb. I don't know. Okay. Anyways, that's the end of their case, the end of the prosecution's case in chief. So that's the end of that. We will begin Thursday's episode with part one of the defense's case. And I'm actually not sure who is up first. So I'm gonna have to take a look and do some research on that one. So I'll see you guys on Thursday. Thank you so much for joining me. Please let me know what you think about so far the state's case. I mean, obviously, we have been here kind of knowing that they committed the crime, but is it a crime? Is it self-defense? And I don't think that the prosecution has really made a case that it wasn't self-defense at this point. Like, I don't think it's a strong enough. I mean, we know they did it. So but they did plead guilty. I was looking, or not guilty. I was looking that up. They pled not guilty, and they're saying that what they did was in self-defense. So, looking at it from that lens, we have to look at the prosecution's case and what they presented so far. And what they presented so far is a bunch of unreliable witnesses, in my opinion, and nothing really substantiated. It's going to be interesting. And Dr. Oziel was just a mess. So we're going to see how the defense lays out their case and see if it makes any more sense and if it, supports their theory of self-defense. So I look forward to watching the part one of the defense's case with you guys, and I will see you then. Take care and have a good one. Bye, guys. If you've been impacted by a true crime and would like your story told in your own words, or if you or someone you know has been wrongfully convicted or accused of a crime, please write to crimeincourtchannel@gmail.com and tell us your real true crime encounters. Thanks for watching.